Even though Week 2 fantasy football kicked off last night on Thursday night, I wanted to break down 5 fantasy football running backs from Week 1 that absolutely blew me away. These are players that are definitely rising up my rankings here, and players that I'm even more excited about now than I was in the preseason because of the ways that they impacted their offense in those Week 1 matchups and the ways that their coaching staff deployed them into their offensive structures and situations a week ago. So basically, I have growing optimism for these players. These are guys that if you have them on your fantasy team, you're feeling pretty good about right now, and we're going to talk about all that stuff and more in today's episode with 5 running backs skyrocketing up my fantasy football rankings here for Week 2 fantasy football. If you're looking for some help in your leagues this season, you found the right place. Sizzle Fantasy Sports is the channel for you. Drop down and click that subscribe button if you're new around here. Smash the like before we get started, and of course, your questions are always welcome here at SFS, so drop those down in the comment section below, and let's get started. Surprise, surprise, the first name up on the board here is Saquon Barkley of the New York Football Giants. He's got the Carolina Panthers on the slate for this week, but last week he absolutely obliterated and wiped the Tennessee Titans off the face of the earth, a 21-20 upset by the Giants, and boy, oh boy, was I freaking impressed with Saquon Barkley and very happy that I have my hands on him in a few leagues. It looks like, as of today, we could have ourselves a top 5 running back finish on our hands. Consistency and reliability has been the struggle with Saquon. Health, of course, as well. We're early in the year. It's just week 1, but I'm absolutely loving what I'm seeing. Let's dive into some of the numbers. Let's talk over some of my favorite takeaways and points from Saquon's week 1 performance. First and foremost, this is what you love to see. We talked about this during the summer. We talked about this as a reason to draft Saquon Barkley. There was a point in time where I felt his ADP was getting a bit rich for my blood in the late first round when his ADP was really freaking pushing up there towards the end of August, but he was number 1 in running back snap share this past week at 83.1%. We talked about this, like I said. There's no one else in this backfield that can legitimately take away touches because you just can't make the case for that. Matt Breida is a nice relief running back when Saquon pats his helmet and says he needs to come out for a quick breather. But man, this is his backfield. This is his offense. This is Saquon Barkley's touches and opportunities to lose here, and it looks like he's been unlocked by this Brian Daboll coaching staff. He was 3rd in red zone touches in week 1. He had 5 total opportunities in that space in 1 goal line carry, which he ultimately converted for a touchdown. He also had a 2-point conversion, which I don't believe contributes to that red zone touches marker and indicator there, but he did also cash in that 2-point conversion to take the lead for that football team late in the game. So already off the bat here, you're seeing a player who has the number 1 most opportunities or the highest percentage of the snaps in his respective offense, a player who's getting the most opportunities, or top 3 in terms of opportunities in the most valuable area of the football field, that being the red zone, the 20-yard line and inward from opponent territory, and a guy who had a 35% target share. What the heck? You don't see that number for running backs. Now, it's not sustainable. Let's start there. The number is awesome. I loved seeing 35% of the Giants passing offense head to Saquon Barkley. That was something I was not expecting here. He made the most of his opportunities. He did have a very, very good, well-rounded contest here. But that was number 1 in the Giants offense. It's number 1 amongst running backs. Completely bonkers stuff. What I think is more important to take away here, though, is the 100% route participation number that he had. So basically, every opportunity he had to run a route in this Giants passing game, he was doing so. And then, of course, over 1 in 3 of those passing attempts from Danny Dimes was heading to Saquon. So the volume has just been fantastic. That's the number 1 thing that we've based our analysis on this offseason. And somehow, some way, that efficiency has vaulted back up to the top, averaging over 9 yards per carry in week 1, 164 yards on the ground. He was 4th in yards per carry total. We had some very efficient rushers this week from Aaron Jones on very limited volume and others. He had 15 evaded tackles in week 1. That is ridiculous. And he was number 1 in breakaway runs. That also being a very, very impressive statistic. So everything that we said needed to improve for Saquon Barkley just went through the freaking roof this week. He is right now, I believe, the running back 1 for fantasy football. What you've got Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, DeAndre Swift up there for guys that had some of the best weeks. But Saquon's off to the races here. For a guy I had kind of in the fringe RB1 territory, he's definitely looking like someone that can push himself into the elite tier of running backs. Again, if he can continue this on a consistent basis. A.J. Dillon here after week 1, another name we've actually talked about quite a bit. I believe this is the third episode we've had a name drop of A.J. Dillon in for week 2 fantasy football. Now we've got almost 30 videos up for week 2, but you get the point here. A.J. Dillon's a player taking on Chicago this week. Minnesota was a very, very rough contest for the Green Bay Packers in week 1, but A.J. Dillon was kind of the lone star for that offensive approach. He was easily the best Packers offensive player. He led the team in both rushing and receiving production. He was 9th in red zone touches this week with 3 total, 2 of them coming on the goal line. So, of course, for a guy who's kind of splitting some touches with Aaron Jones here, it's really good to see that level of opportunity in week 1. And really the reason he makes today's episode is because of the fact that I think there's a case he might be more productive than Aaron Jones this season based off of that goal line utility and pass game involvement. If they keep sending those short yardage situational rolls to A.J. Dillon inside the 5-yard line, I just don't see a way that Aaron Jones outproduces him unless he's literally putting up wide receiver numbers out of the backfield. So something really key to keep an eye on here in week 2, which should be a more favorable game script. I'm excited, to see the splits for these two players. It was 51% of snaps heading A.J. Dillon's direction, 61% heading Aaron Jones's direction. So a little bit of an overlap between those two players there, showing the prevalence of 2 running back sets and exactly what Green Bay is doing. Also, Aaron Jones can line up in the slot and whatnot. So last stat I wanted to reference here, he was 8th amongst running backs with a 17.1% target share rate. Again, very, very good, along with that red zone touches number when you consider the fact that he is splitting opportunities and time with another RB and a very talented one at that in Aaron Jones. So keep your eye on A.J. Dillon. I've got him as a big buy candidate this week. I think before he firmly establishes himself as Green Bay's most valuable fantasy football running back to own, take advantage of the situation, go out and buy him, and roster him on your fantasy football teams. Before we dive into Darrell Henderson here, if you guys are enjoying today's episode, make sure to smash that like button. Of course, like I said in the intro, your questions are always welcome here. Drop those down in the comment section below, and go check out some of the other links we have in the description of today's episode. Check out our social media platforms from TikTok to Instagram to Twitter, especially TikTok and Twitter. Those are the 2 ones you're going to get some really original content on. I would love to post more on Instagram. Of course, if you're looking to just support the brand here, you can always go give that a follow. But those are the 2 other primary spaces that we're on. Of course, our website, sizzlefantasy.com, as well, is another place to get some more exclusive content, and you can unlock everything on that entire website by using code SFS on Underdog Fantasy when you sign up and deposit $10 or more. They're going to double your money to play with up to $100, so potentially you put $100 down if that's your choice. They'll give you another $100 to play with. You'll have $200 to keep for yourself. Play, NFL Sunday main slate games. You can do a little 6-man draft and just pick players from that Sunday afternoon pool, compete in a just singular day event against some other players, and win some quick cash from that type of a platform. And again, when you sign up on there and use promo code SFS, you're going to get double your money in our entire website, the SFS All Access Pass, for free through this season's Super Bowl. So a lot of utility and value left to be had, which includes personally messaging me on the community Discord server and getting lineup advice and help every single week. So check all that stuff out. Other thing I love on there is prop bets. I love making me some props, some 4 or 5 leg parlays, trying to, 20x my returns. We'll see if I cashed in on those on a consistent basis, but I've had a lot of fun with that so far this season and years past. So moving on to Darrell Henderson here at the number 3 spot, taking on the Atlanta Falcons this week. Darrell Henderson's case is very easy. It looked as if, obviously, Cam Akers' draft stock was in the 4th round this season, and you could get Darrell Henderson in the 10th round. One thing I didn't understand this week, it was absolutely mind-boggling to me, so I'm watching the games on Sunday afternoon with my buddy, and he goes, you need to have Darrell Henderson as a must-add player for this week. And I said, what? And he says, yeah, you need to have people picking up Darrell Henderson. I said, are you crazy? He was a 10th round pick. How is, he's not going to be available. And he turns his phone to me and shows me his ESPN Fantasy League, and Henderson's rostered in like 56% of formats. So not only was this a player that had been dropped and was just kind of left by the wayside, or maybe even went undrafted in some league formats, and now you're seeing how much more valuable he's becoming, where the roles have really reversed here. I've had a lot of questions. Should I drop Cam Akers this week? And I'm like, come on, guys. Be patient. It sucks. It's really unfortunate that you wasted a top 5 round draft pick on a player that's outlook looks pretty shaky at this point in time. But the moral of the story here, the point being, Darrell Henderson was second in running back snap share this week at 82%. If you remember 5 minutes ago, Saquon Barkley finished number one at 83.1%. So Darrell Henderson looks like a freaking fortified, bona fide, established workhorse running back for this football team now. He's not getting Derrick Henry level touches. He's not that elite level of a player. He is a very serviceable player. I've always referred to Darrell Henderson as a guy who kind of does everything at a solid enough level to be an NFL starter, but he's not really elite at any one skill. But, they need him at this point in time. You can't just not have a run game. We saw that last week. The running attack was atrocious. He did get some really valuable opportunities in the receiving game. And last season, notably, he was very good in the red zone. So they're a meltdown, this being the Rams in week one. I expect him to get back on track. They need to get back on track and be a more balanced team, just plain and simple here in week two against the Falcons. And he was also, another key note here, fourth in running back routes run in week one. So yes, they were trailing a lot. Yes, he had to flare out of the backfield a lot because they were trying to catch up late in the contest, but still important to see that this team is comfortable using him at a consistent basis in their team's offensive passing game. Good old CPAT here, Cordarrelle Patterson, someone that I was not expecting to have these type of numbers from in week one, but absolutely, gave us flashbacks to 2021 Cordarrelle Patterson. I thought there was a chance that he might still have, some RB3 level usage, be a solid level flex player, but there's an opportunity that if CPAT can sustain this level of production to once again be a top 24 running back play for the entire course of the season. If you remember correctly from last year, he started dang strong. He kind of faded out and finished a little bit slow, but Cordarrelle was someone that was super, super valuable, one of the best waiver wire pickups of the year, probably second to Amon-Ra St. Brown just because of how Amon-Ra finished the year last season, being the number one total points scorer in fantasy football during the fantasy playoffs. But CPAT, man, much else needs to be said here besides 22 rushing attempts for $120 and a touchdown against the Saints defensive front that has usually, for the last 5+ years, been thought of as one of the most elite run-stuffing units in the entire league. So his physicality, his dynamic ability cannot just be swept under the rug here. You have a legitimate player who can make legitimate big-time plays, be a factor in the pass-catching game as well. And another key note here that I really want to mention is that Tyler Algier was a healthy scratch for this game, or at least he was a DNP, did not play, coach's decision for this game. So whether or not that was something health-related or not, I tried to do some digging, but everything I found was just coach's choice, did not suit up. CPAT's the guy they wanted to roll with. You got Damian Williams a little bit nicked up there as well, but I just can't see a universe in a situation where he's going to get supplanted by one of those two players. As long as he's healthy and doing these types of things, his body, his athleticism, his size, his speed. I mean, he was making guys drop to the floor in open space last week left and right. Just open field tackling from linebackers, boom, pancakes on the turf. It was pretty nasty to watch, and I live with a Saints fan right now, so we were talking through that game, watching that stuff, and he was like, we can't stop Cordarrelle Patterson, and I was like, yeah, this is a problem. This is something you probably should figure out because this guy is running all over your defense. So CPAT, he's big enough to be a goal line back, and then like I said, super valuable role in the receiving game. We saw him literally line up out wide last year and play X receiver without really in the lineup and just run fade balls and score touchdowns. I mean, he's an absolute beast here. Finally, Antonio Gibson at the number 5 spot, taking on the Lions this week. Another dude that just knocked my socks off here. A guy that I was very, round of applause here. If you are someone that drafted some Antonio Gibson shares this summer, I was making fun of you. I was trolling you. I was basically saying, hey, B-Rob's taking this job over, B-Rob this, B-Rob that. And of course, couldn't have predicted the circumstances, the very unfortunate series of events that happened to Brian Robinson. We don't know eventually when he's going to be returning here, but man, did Antonio Gibson finally, a player who I used to love with all my heart and soul, he finally realized his freaking potential as a pass-catching back out of the backfield. Since his rookie season, last year was just abysmal. They stopped throwing them the football. They stopped running routes with them. They were J.D. McKissick this, J.D. McKissick that. It was pissing me off. So then I get to a point here this year where, let's say maybe February, I'm like, all right, Antonio Gibson's a top 12 running back play this season. He's going to be someone that's really relied on. They're going to get a lot of touches his way. And when, it was rumored or reported that McKissick was signing with the Bills, I was like, thank God, we've got it. It's finally here. Antonio Gibson, workhorse, 3-down running back breakout season. And then McKissick gets cold feet, and McKissick comes back. And then the NFL draft comes, and the NFL draft goes, and what you're left with is a 240-pound tank of a running back in Brian Robinson Jr., and I'm like, He just lost his pass catching work. He lost his goal line opportunities. What's left for him? First and second down? Hooray. And then week 1 happens. So obviously Brian Robinson, for his, obviously the issue that played out there where he was injured in a carjacking, not available because of medical circumstances. Wishing him the best. I want him to get back out there on the field because I was freaking hyped to watch him play because I thought he would do some big things. But week 1 comes, and it's McKissick and Gibson. And basically my take last week was it's back to 2021. It's the same outlook, just a different quarterback, maybe even a higher offensive ceiling here. And lo and behold, Gibson gets 8 total targets that rank top 5 in running backs at 19.5% target share and hauls in 7 passes for 72 yards and just lights up the Jacksonville secondary. This is a guy that played receiver in college at Memphis, a guy who was very capable of running routes, and we knew this, and it just wasn't happening for whatever reason. And then it happened, and I'm feeling great about it. If he can get more work in the running department, for now, he is this team's goal line back. They got him touches, and they got him valuable touches at that. That is what matters here. He was number 1 in running back receiving yards, top 5 in targets, again with 8. And it looked like he had that receiving breakout that we've been waiting for here, now entering into what is this year 3 with him on the Commanders offense. So very excited about Gibson for the foreseeable future. We'll say that. We won't say for the entirety of the season because I think that could be something a bit risky to say with Brian Robinson's eventual return. But even still, if they continue to throw the football to Antonio Gibson at a high level and get him these valuable looks downfield, I imagine that he will continue to be a viable lineup play and someone that does have dependability in our lineup. So those were our 5 running backs, skyrocketing up my rankings here for 2022 fantasy football. Per request from one of my good buddies in the community Discord server, Wrangler or Jokester, based on what platform you see him. We'll be recapping the 5 players we covered in today's episode. So quick, to refresh your memories, guys I'm getting higher on here for the coming weeks. Saquon Barkley of the Giants, he's got Carolina this week. A.J. Dillon's got Chicago this week, loving him here as a strong running back too. Darrell Henderson of the LA Rams taking on the Falcons this week. Cordarrelle Patterson taking on the Rams on the other side of that matchup of the Atlanta Falcons. And then Antonio Gibson of the Commanders here, the guy up on the screen right now, taking on Detroit in this week's game where we saw last week the Eagles had a very strong performance rushing against that Detroit defensive front. So if you guys enjoyed, one more time, smash that like button. Check out some of the links in the description of today's episode. I appreciate the heck out of all of you. I'm hoping to hopefully get out either some Saturday episodes. Maybe I'll do some players falling down my rankings. Maybe I'll do another must-watch segment like I did last week. We'll see. Time is a bit of a concern for me just because of the fact that I've got stuff going on. I've got some college games to attend. I go to the UW-Madison, the Wisconsin Badger games. So I got to check all those out, make sure I got time to do that stuff. But, of course, want to get you guys more content. And I would, of course, love to possibly go live on either TikTok or here on YouTube prior to Sunday afternoon matchups to get you guys some last-minute lineup advice. But we'll see how that plays out. I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful. But I'll see you guys there. Peace out.